When you turn the key and shift to drive, suddenly 2 tons of metal springs to life and carries you down the highway at 70 miles per hour. But despite having this incredible power plant under the hood, most of us have no clue how it actually works. In this video, you'll learn how your engine handles 50 violent explosions every second while you enjoy a perfectly smooth ride, sipping your pumpkin spice latte. Let's open up the hood. To fully understand how an engine works, we first have to know the basic parts that make up an engine. First, the solid chunk of metal that everything else attaches to is called the engine block. It's got cylindrical holes bored into it, cleverly named cylinders, and this is where those explosions happen. Most modern blocks are made of aluminum to save weight, though some trucks still use cast iron because it's denser and less prone to deforming from the extreme vibrations and heat generated by the combustion process. Inside each of the cylinders are pistons. These are like metal plunges that slide up and down in the cylinders. They are connected to the crankshaft by a connecting rod. Every time a piston gets pushed down by an explosion, it yanks on that connecting rod, which turns the crankshaft. I'll explain the combustion process in greater detail in a moment. Next is the crankshaft, which converts the piston's up and down motion into rotational motion. It's like a bicycle crank, except instead of your legs pushing the pedals, you've got controlled explosions doing the work. This spinning motion is what eventually turns your wheels. These tiny golf tees at the top are the intake and exhaust valves. They need to open and close at exactly the right moment. That's the camshaft's job. It's got specially shaped lobes that push the valves open at precisely the right time. It's synchronized with the crankshaft by a timing belt or chain, because if the timing is off by even a few degrees, your engine becomes a very expensive paperweight. And the star of them all, the spark plug. This little device delivers a perfectly timed lightning bolt to ignite the fuel mixture. It might look simple, but it's firing thousands of times per minute in split-second precision. Modern spark plugs can last 160,000 kilometers, that's 100,000 Milwaukee miles for our American viewers. Here's what's incredible. All these parts have to work together with tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch, at temperatures that could melt aluminium. We'll go into why the engine block doesn't melt in a minute, but first, here's how all these parts work together to get you to your ex's driveway at 3 a.m. on a Sunday. The magic happens through something called the 4-stroke cycle, invented way back in 1876 by a guy named Nicholas Otto. And get this, your modern engine with all its computers and turbochargers still uses the exact same 4 steps Otto figured out 150 years ago. The 4-stroke cycle is the process through which the air and fuel mixture is ignited and the resulting gases are exhausted inside each of the engine cylinders. The first stroke is the intake. The piston starts at the top and moves down, creating suction like a giant syringe. An intake valve opens and it sucks in a mixture of air and gasoline. By the end of this stroke, the cylinder is filled with a fresh cocktail of fuel and air, ready for Oppenheiming. The second stroke is compression. Now both valves slam shut and the piston shoots back up, squishing that air-fuel mixture into a tiny space at the top. We're talking about compressing it to about 1/10 of its original volume. This is crucial because compressed fuel mixture is way more explosive. But why? Compression increases the density of the mixture, which means more molecules are packed into the same space, allowing for more frequent collisions between fuel and oxygen molecules, resulting in a quicker and more powerful explosion, which happens in the third stroke. Here's where things get violent. Right when the piston reaches the top and everything's compressed to maximum, a spark plug fires, delivering about 40,000 volts in a split second. The mixture explodes, creating hot expanding gas that slams the piston back down with tremendous force. This is the stroke that actually does the work. Everything else is just setting up for this moment. The explosion pushes the piston down, the piston pushes a connecting rod, the connecting rod turns the crankshaft, and that rotation eventually reaches your wheels. Of course, there's much more to talk about in the transmission from engine to your wheels, but that's for another video. For now, let's look at what happens to the hot gases left from the combustion process. On the fourth stroke, an exhaust valve opens and the piston moves back up one more time, pushing out all the burnt gases like pushing air out of a bicycle pump. These spent gases flow out through your exhaust system and out to the tailpipe, and then it starts all over again. Intake, compression, power, exhaust. happening thousands of times per minute, cycle after cycle, mile after mile. By now you may have noticed that while one cylinder is on its power stroke, the others are doing their other 3 strokes. It's like having a relay race where someone's always crossing the finish line. The order in which the cylinders fire is called the firing order. In our 2JZ engine, the 6 cylinders fire in the order of 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, and 4, which is why your engine runs smoothly instead of lurching forward once every 2 seconds. If all pistons in an engine were synchronized to move at the same time, the engine would experience extreme vibration and a very rough idle due to simultaneous power and compression strokes. It will also be incredibly difficult to start and will likely produce very little usable power. Essentially, your car's engine is a power plant that converts fuel into mechanical energy through a series of controlled explosions. The reason your engine block doesn't melt from all the heat is all thanks to the ingenious cooling system. The combustion inside your cylinders can reach temperatures over 2500 degrees Celsius, more than hot enough to melt aluminium. Enter the cooling system, which is basically a liquid transport network for heat. It starts with coolant, a mixture of water and antifreeze that flows through passages in your engine block called water jackets. Think of it like your engine has a circulatory system with coolant instead of blood. A water pump, usually driven by a belt, pushes this coolant around the engine where it soaks up heat from the metal. The hot coolant then flows to the radiator, essentially a heat exchanger made of thin tubes and fins. Air flowing through the radiator cools the coolant back down and the cycle repeats. The really clever part is the thermostat, a temperature-sensitive valve that stays closed when the engine is cold, forcing the coolant to just circulate within the engine to help it warm up faster. Once the engine reaches operating temperature, the thermostat opens and lets coolant flow to the radiator. Fun fact, your car's heater actually uses the same system. It's basically a tiny radiator inside your dashboard that uses engine coolant to warm the cabin. That's why your heater doesn't work right away when your engine is cold. Now, you might be wondering, why do some engines look different? Well, engines come in different cylinder counts. A 4-cylinder engine has 4 pistons doing this dance. When the cylinders are aligned like this type of engine is referred to as an inline engine. They are simple, smooth, especially inline 6s, and cheap to manufacture. You probably have an inline 4. Move up to a V8 and now you've got 8 cylinders, which means twice as many power strokes per revolution. The V in V8 means the cylinders are split into 2 banks set at an angle forming a V shape. This makes them shorter than an equivalent inline engine, so you can fit more cylinders in the same space. Think of your neighbor's Mustang and its rambling V8. At idle, a V8 might be creating 50 combustion events per second across cylinders. No wonder they sound so smooth and powerful. Flat or boxer engines lay the cylinders horizontally opposite each other. Subaru is famous for this. The advantage? A super low center of gravity, which is why Subaru market their cars as being stable and sure-footed. Each engine configuration has its own sound, its own feel, and its own advantages. It's like comparing different musical instruments. So the next time you turn that key or push that button, take a moment to appreciate the incredible complexity happening under your hood. You're in command of a machine that creates dozens of precisely timed explosions every second, manages temperatures that could melt metal, and coordinates hundreds of moving parts to transform dinosaur juice into forward motion. What engine do you think makes the best sound? Let me know in the comments. It takes a lot of effort and time to make 3D videos, and I hope you enjoyed watching this one. This video wasn't sponsored, so please like and subscribe, and if your engine hasn't had a drink in a while, I've got some great deals for you on coolant, engine oil, and more in the description. I'll earn a small commission if you use the links. Thanks for watching till the end, stay safe.